Back in the 80s and the 70s, Singapore had one of the worst public transportation systems. But now they have one of the most efficient and reliable public transportation systems in the world. Meanwhile, the Philippines is still suffering from horrible cases of traffic congestion. So I want to compare the differences of what Singapore is doing and what we're doing in the Philippines right now. But first, let's go back inside. It's really hot in here. Okay, now Singapore. Singapore focuses more on their public transportation. That's because they want to reduce the reliance on private transportation. This is how they deal with traffic congestion. Their goal is to limit car ownership and further develop their public transportation. And so far, it's been very effective. Their public transportation is very effective, reliable, and it's inclusive of the masses. Now, looking at the Philippines, mainly in Manila, the jeepney is one of the major forms of public transportation. Now, the jeepney is both private and public transportation because they're mostly owned by the jeepney drivers themselves. Now, why can't we remove or even give change into these uncontrollable amount of jeepneys? That's because the jeepney here in the Philippines is a Filipino heritage. Ever since the American occupation, tons of military jeepneys were left behind, and Filipinos utilized them by transforming them into the vibrant vehicles which we see today. In other words, the jeepney has been a source of income for the Filipino driver ever since then. This could be one of the reasons why jeepney modernization has been in continuous struggle for the Philippines, because it is already embedded in the culture of Filipinos. Furthermore, looking at the income of jeepney drivers, it's unlikely for them to be able to loan for a modernized jeepney because they really just don't earn enough. The availability of road space is another major component of traffic quality. The Philippines, specifically its capital Manila, has not enough road space for smooth traffic. In 1980, road provision per square kilometer was quite low in Asian cities before motorization rates rose rapidly. This issue cannot be solved quickly unless there is a drastic redesign of the whole urban fabric. And so far, only China has attempted this on a large scale. So the government's attempt to build is only really a band-aid solution and not a well thought out plan, because it furthermore just increases the country's debt. And it's less likely that our country will make use of these infrastructures, as the current administration would not be able to carry out this plan. What Singapore realized is that their land area is very limited. Housing already consumes 14% of their available landmass, and roads a further 12%. Singapore realized some time ago that they can't just go on building roads. So they focused their efforts on their public transport system. They made it cheap, efficient, reliable, and sustainable for the long term. Their plans to improve their transport system dated way back in the 1970s, and they refresh it every decade in order to improve and adapt the design to the current up-to-date trends in order for their transportation system to be efficient and take up as little space as possible. So it is possible to solve the Philippine current traffic congestion problem, but it would take years of proper planning and execution on the country's part in order for it to be fully realized. However, unlike Singapore, whose main goal is efficiency and sustainability, the Philippines seems to only be able to muster up band-aid solutions. For example, the LRT, which only has 2 lines right now, one for each direction, which means that if a cab breaks down along the way, the entire line breaks down and stops operation. We don't have sleeper lines so that broken cabs can be placed there in case of emergencies. The only improvement the LRT has seen is the addition of a few cabs, which has done little to nothing in aiding for the comfort of commuters. Rather than improving the quality of the lines or the quality of the cabs or accessibility for PWDs and senior citizens, the LRMT has been investing in things like apps, which they say is for tourism. And yeah, you heard that right. They want tourists getting on the LRT when even I don't want to ride that thing.